we will rise. When we listen to the heart and the ways of the wise. Ways of the wise, ways of the wise. On the flames of transformation, we will rise. From out of the shadows and into the light. Into the light, into the light.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Unify Women Rising. We're so excited to have you all with us this morning. Today is an even more exciting day. I think this is one of my more exciting shows that we've ever had, and we are getting we are getting ready to meet some of the most powerful women in business from around the world. So, without further ado, we're going to get started. So, let me start with introducing Laura Brandao. Where are you tuning in from here?
I am actually on the East Coast, so I am over in New Jersey by the New York City area.
That is beautiful. I love that. And I'm tuning in from Montana. Josie, where are you at?
I'm in Palm Desert, California, on the West Coast. So we have the middle of the country, the East Coast, the West Coast so far. Very good.
I love it. That's beautiful. And we have the beautiful Rachel Morrison.
Hey everyone, tuning in from Loveland, Colorado. Good to be here with you.
I'm going to tell a special fact about Loveland here shortly. And of course, we have the beautiful Amber.
Hello, everyone. I am tuning in from La Costa, California today. Great to be here.
It's beautiful. I love that. It's a beautiful area. And we have the wonderful Katz joining us. And where are you joining us from?
Hi, all. I'm here from Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. I love it. So I'm excited to get moving. Let's give some quick intros here. I'm going to start with Laura. And Miranda, by the way, will be right back, y'all. Okay? She's just having a glitch. So Laura is the president of American Financial Resources and an industry source of knowledge, positivity, passion, and she radiates energy for bringing families home. I love that, for bringing families home. Why don't you tell us a few short words about you two?
Well, number one, thank you for having me. This truly is such a pleasure and an honor. Well, you know what? I am the president of a national mortgage lender. And the thing about and why I'm so happy to be with all of you today is that my industry is extremely male dominated. And when I came into the industry at only a very young age, there wasn't a lot of women in leadership. So now, fast forward all these years later, now it's my mission to bring women in and lift them up through my industry.
Oh, that's rock star. I dig it. I love it. Empowering women. Woo! That's why we're here. And I'm going to introduce Josie Herndon. It is my pleasure. You guys remember her from last season. Josie is the CEO of Advanced Therapeutic Services. And she's also the CEO of Recovery Review, which is an online journal that has been around for better part about 12 years now. I would say. It's been a while, Josie. She's one of my dearest friends in the whole world, but my favorite thing Josie does is to channel Archangel Gabriel, and I love that energy because it's beautiful. Josie, welcome to Women Rising.
Well, thank you, Deb, and thank you, beautiful women that are on my panel. So I've been working in the field of addiction and mental health and behavioral health, same thing, mental health, behavioral health, addiction, and healthcare for over 30 years, since 1987. And my husband, Jim, and I own a treatment center here in Rancho Mirage, California, where we treat the community. It's an outpatient, advanced therapeutic services. And now we are very thrilled that we're accepting Medi-Cal, which is the state clients. So that's exciting for us, as well as 18 insurances. And we have a beautiful facility in Rancho Mirage. So I believe that God's work has been coming through me all these years, working with addicts and mental health clients. So I'm able to, as you were saying, Laura, in our industry, it's been male dominated, and I think it still is. I'm on the DEI committee for our national association, and the conference was on Mother's Day. And I thought, I can't go to that. They would have never done Father's Day. So anyways, there's still a lot to learn. And, my mother's sick with cancer. I'm not going to go on Mother's Day for our national conference. So it's just things like that are still happening. But especially being Hispanic, CEO in our industry. I think I've probably broken through quite a few ceilings in our field. And I've been able to mentor a lot of young women who come, are counselors or marketers and admissions people, business people in our industry. Women, instead of going in their little skirts and stuff, to conferences, they're doing more business. So anyway, I love empowering women. That's my favorite thing to do, and mentoring women in business. Thank you.
I am so glad that you're here, and thank you. Wow, we've got a powerhouse, and now you all are getting ready to meet another one. And I'm going to hand it over to Rachel.
Thanks. Yeah, so I get to introduce you guys to a really good friend of ours. Her name is Katz right now. And this is one of these moments where we've been friends for like almost 10 years, like somewhere in that timeline. And I've never really like read your bio or like really like knew the full picture. And I just read it right before the credits. You guys, okay, Miss Katz over here has graduated first in her class from Georgetown University. She is a financial, legal, and business consultant coach. She's a lawyer. And something that's really interesting about Ali that I think we're all going to really appreciate is that she's made like she had a super successful business and then like made like $1 million worth of mistakes and then turned it around to have a consistent $7 million annual revenue. And it's like, so first of all, Ali, congratulations. I had no idea. And that's really awesome. I can't wait to hear how you did it. And just for all you guys out there, it's also great I played with this idea and I think that she should really take it on one day. But like, Allie's a great, and I would like her to be my business dom. Just saying, like we've talked about that before. Like you're so good at keeping it real, keeping it straight, and you're just like clear on how to do the systems. And you even have systems that people can go to your website and learn more about, like Lyft and some other ones out there. And also the thing that you do about what is it, like financial dysmorphia or something like that. And that's a really hot topic too. So everyone, I cannot wait to introduce you to Katz and have her share your amazing wisdom and knowledge with all the women out there in the world. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, Rachel. I love that you're getting to know the full range of me, not just the personal human woman, mom me, but the business woman me as well, because I think that one of the most important things for us as women in business is that we do get to really embody the full range. And, as a lawyer coming up in a, obviously very highly male dominated industry, one of the things that does make me the happiest is seeing that today that's not the case anymore. The transformation has occurred. When I started off as an associate back in 2000, I started at Charlie Munger's law firm, right? Charlie Munger is Warren Buffett's personal lawyer. And I came out of Georgetown. I went to Charlie Munger's firm, and I was the only associate that was a woman with a baby. My daughter was born just after I finished my third year of law school, my last year of law school. And so I started my career as an associate and a mom at the same time, and it was just me. And I really felt like I needed to, not that I needed to, but I didn't know how to integrate these two parts of me. For 12 hours a day, an hour each way in LA traffic, and then, 10 hours a day in the office, I was an associate in this law firm, sitting at my desk, pumping breast milk all day throughout the day. And then, in the evenings and the weekends, I would get to be a mom. But it really felt as if I couldn't fit in either world, because with the moms, the other moms in my community, I didn't fit because I was working all the time, and there weren't very many of me that I knew. I didn't know any, actually. It was like the stay-at-home moms who had left the workforce to care for their kids, or the women, that were the associates. They didn't choose to have kids. And Today, I train and license lawyers and soon to be also a wide spectrum of financial professionals on really this methodology that I've created that allows us to use our time, energy, attention, and money in new ways. And one of my favorite parts about it is seeing that today, honestly, most of the legal and financial professionals that I train and work with are women and moms, and who don't have to now make it up from scratch and try and make it, in this very male-dominated reality. In fact, the women are dominating. And what I'm seeing, and I don't want to be seeing this, I actually really want to be supporting more men. What I'm seeing is that the men in my community I think they're intimidated.
I'm watching the same thing in my industry. Exactly the same thing.
I am as well.
I'm watching the women rise to the point that the men are not sure how to handle it, and they're pulling back.
Yeah.
You too, Josie?
I am. I'm seeing the same thing. That's why when I called the National Association, I just basically, really, you guys, Mother's Day, that's just the latest example of them not even considering women and mothers.
But Josie, you spoke up.
I did.
If that was 15 years ago, it would have just happened.
That's right. I would have gone. If it were 15 years ago, I would have gone. I either would have taken my kids when they were little, or I would have skipped Mother's Day. That's how busy I was. I don't know that I would have done that, but I have a feeling I would have, because I was in the same position, raising my kids, little kids. I was a single mom before I married my husband, Jim. Now we've been married 20 years, but for a few years, I was a single mom with a business, my own business, doing marketing and events in our industry. So I was traveling all over the country, putting CEU events together and conferences. And my kids grew up doing that. So it's just amazing that I was able to, how did I do that? I think sometimes. And now that I'm doing therapy with one of my daughters, I understand I was not there. It's sad. I wasn't there. Now, the kids have this abandonment stuff. Oh boy, that's tough.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's huge, right? It is very much the same for my children, Rachel and Amber. I think that the two of you, I believe my story about the two of you is that your kids don't have that you found a way because of when you entered the world of motherhood and business, that you were able to hold both. Mm-hmm. Whereas I would say that for Laura, Josie, and I, maybe because of when we started our careers, that both and really was not as much available.
It wasn't an option. There was no such thing as remote. You had to go to the office and you had to work in an office. Now, thankfully, thankfully there's opportunities where you can have that.
It's interesting because what I did once I became a single mom, and my ex-husband didn't want to pay child support because he was angry, whatever, all that stuff, right? So I knew I had to do it on my own. So I started my events and marketing agency in the year 2000, and I bought a house that I had an office in kind of now, like now, I'm thinking right now my office is my dining room, but my office was my dining room. And then I purchased another home where I had 2 rooms that were my office. So I actually worked from home. I had a team of women that would come upstairs.
That's awesome.
And they were also moms. And so we all worked together, and we had this wonderful event company, national event company. And, but yet the kids are like now going, well, yeah, you were home, but you weren't home.
You weren't present.
Working. I was still in my office working. I wasn't like home playing with them on the swings. So,
but Allie, I have to imagine working in the legal field. You must have been in brick and mortar office, right?
Well, it's interesting. So right after my daughter was born, I was actually clerking for a judge, and he was a senior judge. So I really, while I had to go into the office, starting when she was about, I can't remember, it must have been between 6 to 8 weeks old. My husband was a stay-at-home dad. And again, this was 22 years ago. So that was very rare, to have a stay-at-home dad at that time. And And I remember I would spend a lot of time online connecting with other moms using Yahoo. That's what we had back then. We had Yahoo chat groups. And so I had all these moms in the November 99 Yahoo Moms group.
I remember that very well.
And I remember thinking to myself at that time, wow, if only I could create a reality where I could spend all of my working time and get paid to be online. But that didn't exist back then, right? So then I, went into the big law firm. I did the hour-long commute each way. I was out of the office, out of my house for 10 hours a day. And then when my son was born, my second child, I couldn't go back after my maternity leave. There was no way that I was going to be able to go back. And in fact, during my labor, I was on the phone with the senior partner that I was working with. And I remember my midwives coming to me, and I was going for a VBAC because I had had a C-section with my daughter. And really, I was going for an orgasmic birth. I didn't have one.
We're going.
I never had one. I have
three. We can all honor Amber for being the shining light in that area.
I don't even know what that is. That sounds great.
Oh, you got to search it on YouTube, orgasmic birth, and you will likely see Amber. It's such
it's not so painful. That's great.
All right, my daughter-in-law is pregnant right now. We will have to bring that discussion up.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will. Without question. It is. I mean, it's still my dream. I'm 48 and I still dream of having an orgasmic birth.
When I'm 54, I'll start dreaming about it. No, I'm just kidding. Changed my whole experience in my mind.
Yeah. So as I'm in labor with my son and talking on the phone about, with my senior partner, my midwives came to me and they said, Alexis, you need to put the phone down. You need to be present here. You're not going to be able to progress if you don't. So that was like the beginning of me starting to see, I'm going to really need to learn how to do things differently. And when my son was born, I couldn't go back to the big law firm. And so I went to the senior partner after my maternity leave. And I said, I'm not coming back. I'm starting my own law firm. And he said, don't do it. He said, you're not ready. He said, you need to be here a few more years. And I was terrified. I mean, this was a terrifying conversation to have with two little kids at home. My husband's a stay-at-home dad. We had just bought a house. We didn't have any savings in the bank. I don't come from a wealthy family. I had $100,000 in student loan debt from law school. And I'm giving up a six-figure, $185,000 a year paycheck. But I had to do it. And I had enough awareness at that point, mostly through Agape International Spiritual Center and having found Reverend Michael Beckwith and the teachings that, he was bringing forth at that time, that I was able to commit and say, okay, I'm going to do this and trust that the resources will show up. And I did. And I started my own law practice. And I had to go into a bricks and mortar office still, but at least there was no hour-long commute. At least it was on my time, on my schedule. And then I was able to build that law practice into $1 million a year business within 3 years and figure out a way to only go into my office 2 to 3 days a week. Now, having said that, it wasn't the reality that those other 2 to 3 days a week I was being with my kids. That's not what was true. The other 2 to 3 days a week, I was then building a second business because first of all, I got divorced in that time and I was paying child support and alimony. So I needed to make even more money to be able to pay him child support and alimony. But also my drive and my ambition was overwhelming. It like consumed me at various points. And Rachel mentioned this thing that she called financial dysmorphia. It's money dysmorphia. And I identified that my ancestry and the way that lived through my parents and into me created a a distorted financial reality that caused me to sacrifice my time, energy, and attention in service to money, because that's what we're taught.
Wow. I want to kind of jump in here because you're saying so many powerful things, Allie, and actually, there's the energy with all of you going. I don't even want to step in, but you said the word overwhelm, and overwhelm is such a word that we all resonate with. I don't know about you as women and mothers and business owners and all of that. It's just overwhelm. So how do we process overwhelm, and what are some of the tools that you use to do that with?
Well, okay, this is to the all. In 2000, I went to I had a spiritual journey with Miguel Ruiz's group, right? With Miguel Ruiz. We went up to Teotihuacan and did this beautiful with Lee McCormick. And he was one of my clients. As I said, did my national consulting. He had a facility in Nunnally, Tennessee, outside of Nashville called The Ranch. But in order for me to be his marketing consultant, I'd have to go on a spiritual retreat up to Mexico on my birthday. Okay, I'll go. And then once I got up there, I really felt connected with God and the angels, and it had nothing to do with Lee or my company, but that connection opened me up to this beautiful spiritual awareness that I've been on this journey for the last 22 years. So when I got back home, I was able to I was grounded when I got back home. And I when you were saying overwhelmed, because I was more than overwhelmed at that point. I was a single mom. Thank God I didn't have to pay any alimony. I probably would have lost my mind, but I did have to support my kids. And I was determined. I was so driven to do it. I felt like to me, I think he made me feel a certain way that now I know it wasn't him, it was me. I mean, I've gotten past that. But where I was like, the best revenge is success was my motto back then. It's like, I am going to succeed. I am going to support these kids. I'm going to have a business. And I mean, I never talk about it from that standpoint, but after hearing Allie, I kind of remembered that, that overwhelm got me to this place of, I'm going to make this work no matter what, because I'm not going to ask for a penny from anybody, especially my ex-husband. Because in order for him to pay me, I would have to do certain things for him, and that was not going to happen anymore. And so that's where a lot of this, comes from. And I don't, now that I'm doing therapy with my kids 22 years later about why I had to work so much and everything, this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about, because my daughters are now in their 20s, in their late 20s. And I know that things are generational, and I would like for this to, and so I'm in the middle of that. I'm not even there yet, but I know that that's coming in my relationship with my two daughters, this discussion, this topic, this therapy session, whatever, because I can see their blockage. I almost see that they're blocked, and I had a block at that age. So it's just interesting. I was trying to change a cycle back then. And now I'm looking at it as I'm still, if I decided to change the cycle back then and do something different as a woman, then I'm going to have to continue to change that cycle now as a woman of adult women, daughters.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. And it's funny, one of the groups that I run this group called Women with Vision, and it's women in real estate and mortgage industry. And just this last week, we did a mastermind called Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. Now, you have to understand, women in my industry, for many years, we tried to act like men. We actually toned ourselves down. We even dressed and looked like men because of the fact that we didn't want to stand out. And the only women that stood out were literally women that used their looks to get business. So they were kind of frowned upon, like, oh no, those women are the women that they dress a certain way to get the business. So we have this webinar, and everyone is speaking of this. Overwhelmed. They're speaking about the kids and the job, and my industry is very stressful. A lot of timelines, a lot of people, the roof over their head, being able to close on time, lots of money involved, right? So we're going through this, of how do we recenter ourselves? When you get that phone call of the person with the moving truck outside their house, expecting to be able to move into their house, and they're not ready to close yet, or something happened that we have to tell them some bad news that they're not going to be able to close, what do you do? And I have to tell you, I'm so happy to say that we are finally in a world where women can admit it's okay to feel that overwhelm. It's okay to learn what works for you. And in our chat, you had some people say, I listen to this kind of music. Some people say, I go for a walk. I take the dog out. I play with my child. I go and look at something beautiful that puts a smile on my face. I call a friend. I do something nice for someone else in order to recenter me, to have gratitude in that moment. So I think the first thing is acknowledging that it's okay. And we all feel that at some time. And then figure out what works best for you.
That's beautiful. The fact that we're even having the conversation.
That's it.
Huge. That's very good.
Yeah, for me, one of the best strategies for overwhelm is to make a list. Very practical strategy. Make a list of literally everything in my head. It has to get out. It has to get out, because so often the overwhelm is just actually existing inside, and it's not. Once I get it out, I recognize and I can come back to remembering, oh, I'm creating this reality by how I choose to use my time, energy, attention, and my tea resources. And so if I get it all out on paper so that it's no longer swirling here in my mind, then I can see it out here, and it's so much easier for me to deal with. Then from there, I can actually begin to put it on my calendar, not as like that it all has to be done today. I get to calendar out these things over time and recognize, oh, time's not vertical. I don't have to do everything today. It's horizontal. And I create my own reality. So I get to decide when I do what I do. And all it takes is communication with myself and those around me so that I'm establishing boundaries and expectations clearly. I know how to do that. And it's our job.
One of my tools is the 72-hour rule. That if I'm overwhelmed, I'll do what you said in a sense. I don't know if I make a list, but I have the list going. So I put it all on pause for 72 hours. And then I go back to it in 72 hours, and most of it's covered. So if like if I write it down, or if I know what it is, and then I put it on pause, like right now I'm on a 72-hour from my daughter. I love her dearly. She's probably watching. But I put myself on a 72-hour because we were having a discussion that wasn't going, it wasn't going anywhere. So put it on hold for 72 hours. I'll go back to it in 2.5 days, 2 days, and see where it's at. Usually they resolve themselves. So whatever it is on the list, if you can just put it on pause for 72 hours or 48, whatever, just put it on pause away, give it to God, just leave it there, and then go back to it. It will resolve itself. It's amazing that, my husband taught me that, of all people. He's wonderful. My husband, Jim, my second husband. He's a wonderful provider.
Definitely, Josie. That's amazing. And I think that's something that you're leading into, which is, this feminine leadership dynamic. And, thank you so much. Like, this sounds weird saying thank you, but thank you for paving the way, all three of you, for putting your blood, sweat, and tears into the brick and mortar system. So like Ali said, people like myself and Amber, Miranda, Deb's kind of like a good blend of everything, but can come through and as well as like fully embody and invite others to participate in what it means to experience a high level of business acumen with feminine principles being the center of intuition, of alchemy, of healing, of home. And I know we're all really good at that. And I know Amber has some pristine codes around this piece. I want to give you a moment to share what's in your heart right now.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciating the conversation and so much value and everything that's being shared. Really resonating with so much of this. And in direct response to your inquiry, Debbie, about like what are the practices and the tools that help us to stay out of overwhelm, or how to work with overwhelm when it's occurring. And other than what's been shared about dumping out my brain, my mind, of all of the things that need to happen so it's not being held internally, which for me certainly generates stress and overwhelm. And I can see it and I can calendar it and start making tactical steps in that direction. But more fundamental than that for me is the recognition that we have very little control over the circumstances, the external circumstances. They're just happening, right? But what we always have command over in each moment is our response to them. So taking responsibility for our state of being, first and foremost, knowing that the quality of the state of being that we're bringing to everything we're doing is infusing the doing with that quality. So whenever I start to get into the overwhelm or things are going too fast, I begin to lose quality in the activity, whatever it is. And I'm committed to, as much as possible, creating that congruency of the state of being that I'm embodying, again, infusing everything that I'm doing. So the doing actually becomes a more effortless expression of the state of being that I'm first and foremost attending to. So for me, definitely moving my body. I'm very kinesthetic. And if I'm feeling a buildup of charge in the system that can manifest as overwhelm or stress, I will just start moving, dancing. I'll go outside in nature, bare feet on the earth, like just either move my body or slow down. Either one of those, and it depends on each moment what's needed, sometimes both. But those practices are what bring me back into the state of equilibrium, so that once again, I'm vibrating from a clear place, and then I feel so much more effective in whatever it is that I need to do from that place.
That's wonderful. I wanted to just, if I could just share something, because when you, Laura, mentioned about you had to become more of a man in your industry to be seen. For
to be
me,
heard.
Or to be heard.
To be heard or seen. Correct.
Seen and heard and acknowledged.
Mm-hmm.
What I did was, what worked for me, because I'm sitting at the table. I'm doing political things in Sacramento, legislation, testifying for bills to pass, things like that now, because of all my years of experience. So now I'm wanting to make a difference, not just complain. And I'm able to do that because I've been consistent in our industry and I know enough. But in order to get here, I felt like they thought I was the secretary always.
Yeah.
In the room. When I was in a room full of men, and I was actually, I was in the leadership. I'm at the leadership table. I'm still at the leadership
But you're still
table,
expected to clear the dishes in the cup.
The vibe is that, there. And so what I learned is to let them all speak first. Let them all speak first. I listen to it. I take notes. And then I speak. And then once I speak, it makes sense to them, because if I were to do it the opposite way, they would just take the credit. They would run with it because maybe there were ideas that they didn't, whatever. So I had to strategically figure out, how do I sit at this table with these men and get the job done? Because I knew I was the one doing the job. I was the one with the strategic plans, but I learned that. And again, I don't know what that means, but I'm just sharing it. But I would just let them sit and talk. And I would kind of see it as like they were blowing. And I love men. I love men. I'm not, but they would, blow smoke, whatever, do their thing, their ego thing. It's like they had to do their whole ego thing in the room first. And I was aware of that. So I'd let them do their whole ego thing first. And then I would speak. And then we could have a conversation together. But if I were to do it the other way, their ego, it was too much for their ego. And they would I felt like they were stepping on me there, or they were having to take credit. I don't know what it was, but that's just something that I've learned over the years working with male dominant, CEOs. I remember going to a conference and I was literally the only female CEO in this room of hospital administrators. So
And I really love
marketer. They thought I was the secretary until I stood up at the end and I made a bunch of valid points that they literally, the insurance companies came to me afterwards and wanted information about how they were not authorizing our patient, whatever it was that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, you know, so I mean, strategically, I think as women, we are still going to have to do that sometimes. And that's okay, because men, like I said, I love men. I don't ever want to squash their ego, because that's what they have, or their manlyhood, or whatever it is, you know, that's important to them. Just like our femininity is important to us.
Got it.
So
and I love that. And one of the things that I really love about what everybody is speaking here, and Allie was touching on this too, and I want to hear from Miranda, because we haven't really heard from her today, is this speaking our truth and standing in our power as women in business. We stand in our truth. We speak our truth. And I want to thank Josie and everybody. We've all been in that room of men, but it's not really about that. It's about shifting what was and into this new world that we really are in now. But I really would love to also hand this over to Miranda right now, and then we'll continue.
Yeah, thank you. Such amazing women, badasses here. Thank you so much for your energy and for your standing for truth and for being in business and not being afraid to do that, and for bringing your feminine energy. Sorry for missing the first part of the show. We had a few technical difficulties, so we had to deal with that. But yeah, I have 5 kids. I was a single mom for many, many years. And I originally started as a nurse, which wasn't too hard to be a woman and a nurse at the same time. But I also worked 3 nights a week as a nurse for 15 years and started building my own businesses on the other days and raising kids. And I've been in many different realms of business and humanitarian world, and women are needed in business. I mean, when I would start going with the guys that own the businesses with me to New York and talking to investors and that kind of stuff, and being in the room, and they'd end the conversation with, well, if we invest in your company, how much time do we get to spend with Miranda? And I'm like, did they really just say that? And the guys like look at me like, we don't know what to say. Just don't get offended. Just don't, it's fine. But they know how strong I am, and that it's like, what? And I personally don't even show up in a lot of those meetings and realms anymore, because it just makes me sick. Also,
welcome to my world, Miranda.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
so just quick interjection, there are also men out there who have been epic, like so epic.
Yeah,
that's what I
was gonna go into next. Yeah, that also, like in the angel investor world, some of the same kind of thing. We were told, like, as a group of women, that the angel investors and seed investors have a rule against investing in women, because when they invest in women and when they invest in men in tech, and they ask them, if your tech is crashing, if your business is crashing, what will you do? And the guys say, I'll do anything. I'll fly to another country. I'll give my entire life. I'll work 80 hours a week. I'll do anything I can. But women obviously have to say, and especially if they ask you, are you a mother? Do you have children? Would you give up your children for your business if it was crashing, or if we were going to lose our money? And of course, every woman is like, well, no, my kids come first more than anything, and they should. So they have a rule against investing in women with children, is what they told us. So I was like, what? So now there are other realms of angel investors that are men and that support women and that are out there and that are conscious, and they're spiritual investors. And I just say it again, women, get out there, be in business, create the new worlds that are supportive of women business and supportive of everything that women need to be in. I'm so grateful to work for companies now that are adamant about having half men, half women there, and giving women a voice all the time. And so grateful for the beautiful men that are with us and have decided to do that in Unify, in Empowerment Institute. But yeah, very grateful. We need
Miranda,
balance.
what you just said, I honestly believe it's the balance of both. It is not one or the other. It is actually the balance of both feminine and masculine energy together. That's really where you reach levels that are far beyond. But I agree, it needs to have that balance.
Well, and there's some people out there that are leading the highest levels of economics, technology, government, policy, who are creating a very unique role inside of their organization that is not in a traditional business model, right? Like you have to do this kind of job. It's like, just be you, do your thing, meditate, come and talk to us, do your art, right? Be creative in the world. And we trust that in some way that information is going to yield a high return. And it super works because, like I said, the people that are leading most of the areas at the highest level of governance, economics, technology, and even science and innovation, those types of realms, are hiring positions like this and paying very, very well. And then noting that with the growth of AI and having a lot of like mundane jobs be obsolete functions because of a lot of the different systems that are being created, that intuition and creativity and problem solving are going to be the most sought after positions of the future, because we're going to need a high level of intelligence to steward the smart cities, world, and structures that are currently being created now. So whether or not you're a guy or a girl, keep that in mind, and also know that that allyship, pleasure, vulnerability lead to the clarity that's going to be necessary in the practice for the efficient engines and the desired lifestyles to be fulfilled. And I think that's also really important as women in business, to create space to have that practice of creativity, art, so on and so forth, magic, by understanding how to create economic engines for yourself that you can create and keep running and sustaining, so that you can, and then set up your lifestyle in a way that more than enough meets the needs of the engines that you've put in place, that you can like edge more of like what your creativity looks like and feel where you're being pulled into.
I really love it. And I want to jump in because I'm going to actually, I want to really take a dive into the sacred yes as women. I really want to take a deep dive into what that feels like. There's ladies out there, there's men out there watching right now, about taking that moment that you get the calling in your heart to do something different and stepping into that sacred yes. Allie touched on that a little bit ago. We've all touched on it, but I really want to take a step for those of you out there who are afraid, who are fear. You're like, well, why are we really to step through that fear? The sacred yes, you've been called to do something really important. The women here are the proof that it's possible. Everything is possible. I'm hoping that you're seeing that we are all here are the light that you need. These stories are powerful, and you are worth it. So let's get into the sacred yes, and what that felt like to step into the unknown and step through the barrier of fear.
This is bringing up something so strong for something that Rachel and I do. When we're visioning something, she goes, play the music. And we put on like epic fantasy, like battle music, and we play that. And then we just start riffing off of like, what are we going to do? What is this event about? What is this technology? What is this marketing about? And then we just go and go and go into, and then Rachel will say, I'm pregnant. I feel it. I can feel the baby. We got the baby. It's such an interesting and weird process.
And then we birth it.
To just have the music, have the environment, and just keep going until you're a full sacred yes, and you're just full of all of the energy of where you need to go, and so many downloads and so much channeling has come through of the energy that we need.
For me,
awesome.
my sacred yes, when I did my, I said yes. And I've never heard sacred yes, but when I said yes to God and the angels 20 years ago to do this work, do the work of Gabriel and my path and journey, but continue, for a minute, they were two separate things for a while, for quite a few years. It was my spiritual life and my business life, I thought. And then we integrated it. And as I integrated my sacred yes, what came to my business more than anything is integrity, ethics, all of those things, because in our business, there's so much with rehab. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with a lot of the awful things that happen, right? People buy and sell clients, admit inappropriate clients for money, and they die there. I mean, there's just a lot of garbage that goes on, a lot of kickbacks, all that stuff. And those facilities were doing great. And I never did any of that. Even as a marketer, I never got paid for clients. And my facility wasn't doing that great for a few years when they were all running wild west with all that stuff, paying for patients and everything like that. I never did that. I never bought sober living bed, whatever. And I'm not saying, but I had an employee yesterday that reminded me that's been with me for about 7 years. And we're celebrating 10 years of our facility this year, that reminded me of when we were barely, and I call it, instead of paycheck to paycheck, like when I was a single mom, it's payroll to payroll sometimes. I've got 17 employees. And now it's better. But for a minute there, it was really touch and go. And they reminded me that I had said, let's just stay the course. We're going to stay the course of integrity. We're not going to, do whatever. We're just going to stay the course. And those facilities will end up closing. Ours will stay growing. And she reminded me that that's where we are right now, and thanked me for staying in the integrity. And as a matter of fact, I joined a advocacy coalition. I'm a founding board member for ATTACK, and that's where we've been changing legislation for all of these things that they've been doing. So my yes led me to just, it was for me, when I said yes to God and yes to the angels and yes to this spiritual life, the alignment was to stay in integrity with everything that I did, and ethical, and even to the point of legislation. And we can do that, change these things in our world if we continually say yes from that standpoint, but not in an aggressive way, because aggression doesn't. So it was, and a lot of people were getting aggressive, and I just stayed back, meditated, prayed, did my Gabriel work, and then made a difference. So my yes was the integrity in my business.
Wonderful.
So bringing that energy through, and one of the things that's important when we're saying that sacred yes is the kind of energy that we're bringing, and that's why I wanted the sacred yes. It's a different energy altogether, and I'll share a moment later if there's even time. But we're in our last 10 minutes of the show, and I'd like to hear from Allie and Laura and Amber and Miranda and Rachel a little bit more as well. But let's start with Allie. I'd like to talk about the energetics involved in your successes.
We'll start by unmuting. The energetics involved in my successes. Can you, Debbie, can you say more about that? What would you love to hear about that?
It was my question.
Oh, great.
It was Rachel's. Okay, I'm going to be that. Rachel said, and I'm going with the flow, y'all. So energy. This is energy.
Yeah.
That laugh right now. There's some beautiful energy. Can we just take that in, everybody? Look at that laugh. Look at her smile. Oh, you guys, I love you ladies. You're beautiful.
Well, Rachel, explain a little bit.
Sure. So like there has to be some sort of chutzpah that you embody to get you to where you're at. And so I'm curious, what were some of those defining moments that you revealed in yourself, pushed through to the other side, mindsets that kept you like on course? Like, how did you choose? Why did you choose to do it? How did you choose to stay on the path?
So interesting. So in the early years, I've had two phases of success. right? And I look at them as these initiations. And so the entire first phase of success was built on the energetic of fear. That's the only way I knew how to motivate myself. I didn't know that there was anything else. And so the motivation of fear pushed me, and it was really useful. And I was able to harness that, and it got me to a place. And the place that it got me to was externally so successful. Best-selling, author, family financial and legal expert on TV, $2 million businesses, right? All the things that we could possibly want to achieve. And I remember somebody meeting me at that time of my life, and he said, Alexis, people are so attracted to you because of your energy. And I didn't even know what he meant. I had no clue. So I was certainly not being driven on any sort of like energetics, right? But all of that, it wasn't sustainable. I collapsed under the weight of what I had created, because even though I had followed all the rules and it looked so good on the outside, I couldn't hold it. I ended up walking away from all of it, moving to a farm and filing bankruptcy and saying, forget this. I am not doing this. I'm not doing this. There's no way that I'm going to be willing to do this. I'd rather go live on a farm and, drive my kids to school every day and not have any support helping me, and just live this very, very simple life. And from that place, with a tremendous amount of prayer. And this is, by the way, around the time, that I met Amber and you, Rachel. And really in so many ways, like the breaking of my heart to let go of whatever the dream was that I had thought was the thing that I was supposed to be pursuing, and really allowing myself to, find this surrender and come to understand, I don't have to build through the push of fear. I don't have to build through the push of fear. I can actually learn to lead through trust and prayer and service, and really know that life has my back. And when I look back at that moment where I walked away from everything and made the decision to file bankruptcy, like ego death, wiped it all out. What I can see now, and that was 10 years ago, is that I didn't know, I didn't know. I actually had to go into, kind of this underworld place of, I don't have any of the answers, spirit, life. I need you to show me the way and show me if you actually really have my back. And turns out life did have my back. And then I could learn to embody trust. And then now just, continue to use all the practical, structures and the masculine and all of that, but also really trust the feminine. And so much of, what, Rachel and Miranda and Amber, you all have been talking about today, of how do we, pull these feminine principles into these very masculine structures as well.
Thank you. That was extraordinary. And thank you for your perseverance, your vulnerability and authenticity to talk about that. It is that true death to the ego. I've been there. Oh my God. When I was making bank, all this, I lose everything. And what I realized is I had who I thought I was in those successes. And when I lost the successes, I lost who I thought I was. So I lost it was a undoing of everything that I had ever thought that I knew. And to go back within that place and allow creation to happen, allow faith to come in, allow that trust to come in. And I even fought with the word trust, because I don't know about you all, but trust didn't come like that. It wasn't that simple. It really required that self-examination of what's happening. And gratefully, I'm well past all that, and I'm here today, present, gratefully for every one of those experiences. And like I would say, without your dark, you wouldn't know your spark. You wouldn't know. It's there, and that dark is the most beautiful place. You get all snuggly in there, and just sit with that, and just be in that. But I want to stop talking and hand it over to Laura, and then shift back over to Amber, and then
So
Miranda will be back.
I first want to start with the sacred yes, because if you can see the books behind me, my book series is called Say Yes Every Day, because it's about the fact that I live my life being open to every situation with no expectations or preconceived notions, because I find that most people, they're afraid to do things because in their mind, they've already come to an outcome of what's supposed to happen. And if that doesn't happen, they actually give up. They don't continue on that path because in their mind, the outcome wasn't exactly what they perceived. But if you go into everything just being open to saying yes to this moment, then whatever was supposed to bring to you, it will happen. So my energy. When I met my husband at 17 years old, we were introduced to each other, and we were in a car together, and he was dropping me off at my house in front of my parents' house. And in the moment that I got out of the car and slammed the door, as my hand was on the door handle, I heard a little voice in my head that said, "Get into the car and tell him you like him, or your life will never be the same." I'm still married to that man at 32 years later, happily married. Well, after that, we had an oops baby when I was 19. And going back to what Allie said, our lives were created in this, oh my God, what just happened? Our life is forever changed. It was the best thing that life could have given to us, because that's what brought me into my mortgage industry when I was 21 years old and created everything that we have. What I have learned in my sacred yes and my energy is that as long as I can keep myself centered, to be able to allow my guides to show me where I'm supposed to go in life, life will work out best for me, because life is not against me, it is for me. And if I follow that and accept that, then everything will work out, whether it's good or bad. It doesn't always work out good, but even I have to learn a lesson, then it is my lesson to learn.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much. And you know, the audience is really expressing a lot of gratitude right now for all of us. We are down to our last 2 minutes, and really, I think now at this point, let's just do a 30-second round table. And I want to end with Josie, so I'm going to start with Amber, Rachel, over to Allie, back to Laura, and then have Josie end this. So, your last word that you'd like to give the audience before that we head out. I'm going to start with Amber.
Thank you, Debbie, and thank you for what you just shared, Laura. Just pulling on that thread and piggybacking on that. I was fortunate to receive some guidance very early in my life that steered me to recognize that, at least for my path, that there was no reason to have any kind of ambition or agenda. That if I just focused on being absolutely present moment by moment, fully participating with whatever was arising in my experience, that every opportunity that was uniquely designed for me to participate in would arrive. And I would be able to recognize it from that place, not clouded by thinking I know what was best for me or what I even wanted. And always what manifested was so much bigger than anything that my clever imagination could possibly have conjured up. So I just have offered my life as an experiment to just see how functional is this choice, and it's been phenomenal. So just we'll leave it at that.
Thank you, sweetness.
For me, meditation is key to that recipe, Amber. I don't think I would have ever gone to the places that I've gone to or will go to without that practice of opening up all the way, feeling, receiving, and then obediently doing, and having that practice. And letting the prayer be the guide, letting the meditation be the guide, letting the trust be the guide. And know that whatever it is that you're seeing is uniquely yours to see and do, and like have faith in that more than your circumstances. Because that's the thing that gets you into the vortex and into the stratosphere of everything you've ever wanted.
Thank you, Rockstar. I love you. I have only one thing to say. Remember who you are grateful for, and the times that you can't be in gratitude or appreciation for anything else. Find that someone that did that thing for you, and remember that, and then go do something for somebody else and be in service. That's all I got to say. Allie.
Whatever it is, commit 100%. Whatever it is, fully go all in, and all the resources that you need will arrive.
Wow. Commit.
Commit.
I heard that. Woo. All right, Laura.
Remember that we're all here for a reason. If you woke up today, your work is not done. So remember that there is a reason you're here. There is a purpose you're here, and nothing happens by accident.
And thank you, gorgeous. We love that. Woo. And Josie.
I just want everybody to, as you're committing and remembering who you are, to also remind you to take care of yourself, to love yourself during this process. So think of something every day from your heart space to do for yourself, because if we don't have love for ourselves, we can't share love for others, is what I have found. So remember your self-love and your self-care during this wonderful journey of business and every other endeavor.
I'm going to channel Miranda real quick because I feel it. She would say, you matter. And the world needs your vision. So bring it and don't hold anything back.
Roxanne, you are on point. That is what Miranda would have said. And we want to thank you all from Unify Women Rising. We hope that you have enjoyed this incredible, powerful episode. Thank you so much. And I'm going to play our outro right now. Remember, our music is by Mary Isis. Go to maryisis.com, maryisismusic.com, and please support all of our artists out there.
Let us rise.